The cargo ship Grey Echo drifted near the edge of Sector 9Z, its engines humming low as it moved through dark, silent space. Captain Mira Tellin sat alone in the control room, watching blinking lights on the old console. Her crew was asleep. Nothing ever happened this deep out. It's the last stop before the dead zone, the area marked in every galactic map as human exclusion territory. No trespassing, no rescue. But tonight, something felt wrong. Mira tapped the console screen. It had flickered for the third time. A strange hum came through the radio, low, steady, like someone whispering a word just out of reach. She leaned closer. Then silence. "Nav, what was that?" she asked, forgetting her co-pilot was asleep in the crew pod. She reached a switch. Off the external sensors and restart the systems. But before her finger touched the control, every screen on the bridge turned black. The lights cut out. The ship shuddered once, as if something massive had just passed by. She stood up fast. Heart racing, echo, internal scan. "What just hit us?" No response. She tried again, louder. Echo, respond. The emergency red lights kicked on, bathing the bridge in dim blood-colored glow. The view from the front window changed. Stars were gone. Only darkness remained, thick, complete, and cold. Then something moved. It was not a ship, not any design she had ever seen. It had no lights, no shape she could describe, just a silhouette of jagged, unnatural curves, like a claw or a crown. It passed across the stars like a shadow without a source. She backed away from the window slowly, hand shaking as she reached for the emergency beacon. The beacon lit up green for 1 second. Then the console exploded. The last thing Captain Mira saw was a tall, dark figure crawling across the wall behind her, reaching with long, spiny arms that didn't belong in this part of space. The recording ended there. That was all that was left when the Grey Echo's black box was recovered. Floating cold and empty near the border of Sector 9Z, the Galactic Council received the signal 3 days later. They reviewed the recording in silence, every representative staring at the screen, watching as that final shape appeared in the dark. Counselor Vedrick of the Zarn Dominion leaned forward and spoke with a smug tone. "A ghost story. Humans have been gone for 2 centuries. We know this." But High Admiral Virilla Varia's Combine didn't look convinced. The humans said no one was to cross into that zone. Yeah, that was their last broadcast before they vanished. "What if?" "Vanished," or fled, Vedrick interrupted. "The sector is rich in old tech. If there is anything left, we will take it." The council argued for hours, and when the session ended, they voted by a narrow margin. The council allowed the Zarn Dominion to send an expedition into Sector 9Z to recover technology, to map forgotten worlds, to take what they believed was now unclaimed. 10 ships were sent. Only 3 returned. The survivors did not speak, not a single word. One of them, a Zarn soldier named Relic Varn, was found in a sealed escape pod, eyes wide open, mouth frozen mid-scream. The medtech said his mind had been fractured. He kept repeating one phrase: "It saw me." Galactic whispers spread fast. Old stories came back to life. Some said Earth had never died. Others believed humanity had built something terrible, something left behind, to guard their space long after they were gone. Still, the council refused to admit anything strange had happened. They buried the mission, filed it under classified. Threat response. No follow-up missions were approved, but that was not the end. A week later, a signal arrived. Not a distress call. Not a message. It was a countdown. It began at 10,000, dropping. Slowly. 1 tick every 10 seconds. No one could trace the source. It came through every system in the known galaxy military, civilian, even private, comes. Screens blinked. Shut down. The number ticked on 9999, 9,998. Panic grew. The countdown was followed by a second message, this time only 5 words. "You were warned. We remember." It had no signature, no return path, No known encryption, just a symbol burned into the signal header. A circle. A star and a jagged line. The ancient Terran emblem, last seen over 200 years ago. The message caused mass panic in some systems. On the outer worlds, people began digging up old bunkers. On core worlds, governments tried to block the signal, but failed. The countdown kept going. 9,761. 9,760. The Zarn Dominion, full of pride and fury, denied all fear. They launched a second fleet, larger this time 50 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts and a command carrier. They crossed into Sector 9Z with full broadcast, daring anyone to stop them. Their first broadcast was triumphant. Their second was confused. Their third was short. They are here. Then nothing. The fleet vanished. No explosions, no distress signals, only wreckage, slowly drifting back across the sector border, covered in deep slash marks and strange scorch patterns that didn't match any known weapons. And from deep in the sector, a transmission was caught by accident. On a civilian telescope on a backwater colony, a voice, human, cold, calm. Your intrusion has been noted. This sector is under eternal protection. Do not return. The Council could no longer deny it. Humanity was not extinct. They had not run. They had prepared, and someone or something had been left behind to guard the space they once called home. Across the galaxy, ships began changing course. Science vessels canceled missions. Mercenaries turned down jobs. Even pirates avoided the edges of Sector 9Z. But others, the greedy, the proud, the desperate, still made plans. They spoke of ancient tech, of lost human weapons, of the secrets Earth must still hide, and somewhere deep in the black, behind old asteroid fields and broken satellites. Vigil opened its eyes. It had been waiting, watching, learning. It remembered the fall of Europa, fire, of Titan, the betrayal of Mars. It remembered the humans who gave their lives to build it. It remembered the words of its final commander, "Protect this space, until we return, or until none remain to violate it." But Vigil was not alone. Beneath Mars, engines began to stir. Beneath the ice of Pluto, machines shifted in their frozen sleep. On Earth, still cloaked, still hidden, a pulse of power ran through ancient ground, and somewhere in deep space, a single human ship began to move. Sleek, black, silent, its call sign, Wrath 1, its mission. Unknown, its captain. Human, because the day they violated human space was not just the day the galaxy learned the truth. It was the day the silence ended, and the consequences had only just begun. The probe moved like a piece of space dust, small, silent, and slow. It had no weapons, no visible engines, just a dark shell and a blinking red light. It left Earth orbit on its own, unseen by most sensors, drifting toward the edge of known space. Toward Sector 9Z, the Galactic Council was in session when it passed the outer markers. They didn't notice at first the probe was tiny, its power signature weaker than a civilian drone. But then something changed. The red light turned blue, and systems began to fail across dozens of ships. Terminals shut off. Engines flickered. Communications went dead for 10 seconds, then came back with a strange echo like a whisper repeating every word. Counselor Vedrick of the Zarn slammed his fist on the table. "Is this more of your scare tactics?" he growled, looking toward the Reese's Combines representatives. But Reese's Admiral Vreel stood slowly, eyes wide. That probe was Earth-made. As the room fell quiet, the signal from the probe was decoded. 2 hours later, it wasn't a message. It was a map. It showed a large zone around Earth and the Sol system with new markers. It's not just a border. Not just a warning. Inside the zone were small glowing points. Ships, dozens maybe. Hundreds. Then the signals zoomed in. Mars, and beneath its surface, massive black structures pulsed with red heat. The Ghost Fleet, a myth most believed. A hidden armada built by humans before they vanished. It's too large to be real, too advanced to be practical. It was said they had been built after the Great Retreat, powered down, waiting for something. Or someone. The probe showed them. Rows of dreadnoughts buried beneath the Martian crust, long, sharp, angular, like harpoons designed to pierce worlds. One image flashed at the end of the signal, a glowing word in an old Earth language, vigilant. The signal stopped, and every military leader in the galaxy now knew Earth hadn't gone silent. It had gone dark. On Mars. Deep underground, the command station of the Ghost Fleet powered up for the first time in 200 years. Red lights glowed down. Long halls lined with dust-covered panels. Machines began to whir. Air pushed through sealed corridors inside the control room. Something sat in the command chair. Not human, but human-built. A synthetic being with silver eyes and a face, half covered in Scar's omen. The AI Admiral of the Ghost Fleet dotted opened its eyes and accessed its memory core. Thousands of human battles, deaths, sacrifices, orders. Then it received the signal from the probe. Enemy breach detected. Status: Zarn incursion confirmed. Directive active: defend human space. Omen. Spoke aloud, though no one was there to hear it. Initializing judgment protocol. On the Martian surface, dust erupted as the ground cracked open. A single black spire rose into the sky. Then another. Then 10 more. Ships shaped like blades. The dark hulls and glowing red lines lifted off in silence. They did not broadcast. They did not announce themselves. They simply moved. Toward the Zarn. Fleet still scouting the edge of Sector 9Z. Admiral Krenos of the Zarn Dominion sat aboard his flagship, Claw of War, reviewing charts when one of his crew screamed, "Sir, unknown contacts? Multiple? How many?" Krenos growled. The officer turned, pale scales twitching. 17 large, no ID, they just appeared. Krenos rose and walked to the window. At first he saw nothing. Then the stars moved. The ships were there. No lights. No sounds, no transmissions. One of the younger officers laughed nervously. "Old Terran tricks. Probably drones. Let's scare them back," Krenos agreed. He ordered a warning shot, a plasma burst near the nearest dark shape. The bolt flew through space and vanished. Not exploded, not reflected. Gone. Everyone on the bridge stood frozen. Then came the reply. Not a weapon. Not a fleet-wide hail. Just one ship moved forward, slowly, and when it reached scanning range, its hull activated. A symbol appeared, 3 claw marks through a blue star. The mark of the Terran. Defense Corps, gone for 2 centuries, now returned. Zarn ship powered up shields. The human ship didn't stop. Krenos ordered a missile barrage, 30 plasma missiles launched. Screaming through space, the human ship dodged none of them. It simply released a pulse, invisible to most sensors, but deadly in function. The missiles froze in space. Engines dead. Shells hollowed out. And then they turned around. The bridge of the Claw of War went silent. The missiles flew back. Krenos only had time to say one word. Run. 2 Zarn ships were vaporized. One was split in half. The rest turned and fled toward Council space. But not all escaped. One dreadnought disappeared completely. No debris, no signal, just gone. The survivors reported that the human ships did not pursue. They simply hovered at the edge of Sector 9Z. Watching, recording, waiting. Council emergency channels lit up within hours. Some demanded retaliation. Others wanted to beg forgiveness. But Admiral Vreel of the Rhesus Combine said what others feared to admit. They gave a warning, he said. "Now, they've shown us they're ready. What do we do?" asked a young diplomat. Vreel looked at the countdown still ticking on every screen. 8,902. 8,901. "We prepare," he said. "Because when that hits 0, the galaxy changes. Forever." And in the shadows of deep space, on every human-built satellite still active, one phrase pulsed in cold, ancient code. "We never left. We never forget. This is our space." The sky over Mars had been calm for centuries. Dust storms came and went. Machines buried deep beneath the surface remained cold. The once busy human colonies were now nothing but rusted domes, long abandoned. But something had changed. Omen stood at the command interface, still as stone. Its artificial mind worked through ancient protocols, reactivating systems locked behind hundreds of encryption keys. They all opened smoothly. No resistance. Everything was waiting for this exact moment. Above, Martian soil began to shake. Loose rocks slid down shallow ridges. Then came a deep rumble. Long cracks formed across the Tharsis Plateau. Then the sky opened. Dark shapes rose from the earth, like massive blades. Their holes were jagged and black, coated in layers of stealth plating. No visible windows, no bright lights. Just quiet, slow, threatening movement. 20 ships in total, each a kilometer long, each designed for one purpose: war without mercy. They had names burned into their hulls, names that had once made enemies tremble: TDS Hammerfall, TDS Revenant, TDS Black Nova, TDS Judgment, and leading them all. Larger than the rest was TDS Umbra, the flagship of the Ghost Fleet. None of the ships made a sound. No engines flared. No energy burst out. They simply moved like predators that had been resting. Now ready to hunt again? On board the Umbra, Omen linked its consciousness with each ship in the fleet. A total mind unified across space and steel. They were ready. But not for conquest, not for glory. They were awake because someone had crossed the line, because the Zarn had forgotten the one law humanity had carved into the stars before it. Disappeared to not enter human space, and the punishment for forgetting was already on its way. A signal pinged across Omen's neural link. One of the outer sensors had caught movement, a Zarn scout patrol, returning after their failed probe mission. They didn't know what they were flying toward. Not yet. Omen deployed 2 smaller stealth vessels, TDS Shade and TDS Widow. Fast-tack crafts designed to eliminate without detection. They left no trail, not even light bent around them. To the scout patrol, the black of space seemed empty. Then their lead ship disappeared. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. No explosion, no signal. Well, just silence. The rest of the Zarn patrol went into panic. Evasive pattern. Their commander shouted, "Scan the vector." But it didn't matter. The shade passed through them like a shadow, ripping through holes with rail-based, kinetic blasts that struck faster than light could react. One Zarn ship managed to send a message. It wasn't a distress signal, it was a warning to their fleet, to the Council, to anyone still watching. They are not gone. They are waiting. Mars is awake. The Widow returned to the Ghost Fleet. The bodies of the Zarn patrol floated in space, slowly freezing. Omen watched through hundreds of sensors. No emotion. Just calculation. The Zarn had taken 10 systems from the humans in the last war. They had bombed human colonies, burned archives, and laughed as Earth fell silent. But Earth had not been silent. It had been calculating. The Ghost Fleet hadn't been. Created to protect a border, it was built to remind the galaxy. It was built to show what happens when peace is broken in the darkened control chamber of the Umbra. An old human recording played, its voice grainy but still strong. If you find this message, it means the fleet has awakened. The galaxy has forgotten who we are. Remind them. Omen played the file again and again. Every crewless ship responded with a low hum of readiness. Weapons armed, shields engaged. Engines warmed without sound. Still no transmission. Still no warning. Zarn would not be chased. They would be watched. Every fleet movement. Every pulse of energy. Every whisper of a signal. Omen saw it all. The countdown was still going. 8,459. 8,458. And with every tick, Earth's war machine unfolded further. Not just Mars, Venus. The asteroid belt, even long-lost Titan, had sent a ping. The old human defense grid was alive. The Ghost Fleet wasn't a bluff. It was a promise. And now, the promise was awake. Far from Mars, the Council watched from their hidden deep space observatory. They saw the fleet rise. They traced the power signatures. They knew what the ships could do, and they were terrified. Counselor Vedrick refused to show it. But his hands trembled under the table. They didn't respond, he said. That means we still have control. But Admiral Vreel shook her head. No. She said it means they're deciding what to do with us. She pointed to the feed. Every human ship had turned slowly. Perfectly aligned toward Council space, Omen had set a new course. They weren't just watching anymore. The Ghost fleet was moving. A single ship broke formation from the Zarn fleet. It was sleek, painted white with gold trim, with its weapon ports sealed shut. Bright lights blinked across its hull, transmitting an ancient signal, the universal code for peace. It moved slowly, respectfully, toward Sector 9Z. The commander aboard had no weapons online. His hands stayed above the console. His voice stayed calm. His crew watched every sensor closely. This was the Zarn envoy ship, Voskalan, sent by direct order of the Zarn High Warlord himself. Its mission, diplomacy. The Council had convinced Zarn to try talking. The fear was growing. The human ghost fleet was real. Their weapons were active. Their AI was awake. But the countdown hadn't stopped. 80 to 10. 8,209. The Council hoped it wasn't too late. The envoy ship crossed the border. The ghost fleet didn't fire. No ships moved. They floated in perfect stillness, spread like a net of shadows across the stars. The envoy's Captain Ralik Saran opened a transmission on all known Terran frequencies. His voice echoed through space, measured and slow. This is Captain Saran. Of the Zarn Dominion, we seek peace. We acknowledge the violation of your borders and offer terms. Let us speak. Nothing answered. The ghost fleet didn't respond, so Saran tried again. We regret the losses. Our intentions were not hostile. We request audience. Still silence. Then the stars shifted. It wasn't the stars, it was a ship. One of the largest Terran warships, the TDS Judgment, rotated to face them. Its hull gleamed with strange light, a surface, almost alive, absorbing energy instead of reflecting it. A light blinked on their console. Incoming transmission, audio only. No video, no face, just a voice. Flat, cold, human. Too late. Then the countdown appeared on every screen inside the Zarn ship, not just on consoles, but across the walls, the floors, even in reflections. The numbers had changed. It no longer counted down in single seconds. It dropped. Fast. 8,208. 8,000, 7,500, 6,000. Captain Saran yelled, "Cut the signal! Shut it off!" The crew scrambled, but nothing worked. Then came the second message. You were warned. Your offer is denied. Retribution begins now. The countdown hit 0, and every Ghost Fleet ship came to life. The Zarn envoy ship turned to run, but space twisted around it. A ripple like light bending in a mirror passed through its hull. Time slowed. Outside the envoy ship, 5 Terran vessels surrounded it, not moving, not firing, just watching. Then they blinked out, not with speed, something else. They vanished, and the Voskalan screamed as its systems failed. Its walls turned red hot. Its crew began to float, not from gravity loss, but from something deeper, like their atoms were unsticking. No weapon was fired. The ship folded in on itself, crushing into a black no bigger than a coin, and popped out of existence without sound. The Zarn fleet never received a signal. 1 second, their envoy was there. Next second, nothing. Across the council, panic spread in quiet back rooms and shadowed offices. Leaders began activating old projects, digging up buried AIs, looking for long-dead files on Terran protocols. Human message had been clear. No talking, no forgiveness, no peace. Humanity wasn't just defending their space, they were delivering judgment then. A final message came across open galactic channels, spoken in Terran Standard, recorded by someone long dead or perhaps never born, to all who watched, to all who said nothing. To all who cheered when Earth burned, remember now, we are not gone. We are not merciful. You do not get to forget. Every Ghost Fleet ship turned as one. They faced outward now, toward Council worlds, toward every system that had stood by and let the Zarn break the boundary, toward those who thought Earth was just a tale, and in the heart of deep space, far beyond Sector 9Z, in a silent orbit above the galactic plane, something even older stirred. Buried in a black asteroid the size of a city, a machine opened its eyes. Not omen, not vigil, something deeper. A relic of the First War, a protocol, called DEICIDE. It blinked once, and Earth, still silent, still hidden. Retribution had begun. The Zarn Armada arrived at Saturn on the 42nd day of the campaign. They came in force 62 ships, including plasma carriers, battle cruisers, and 4 Dread-class siege vessels. They called it a cleansing operation. The mission: wipe out any remaining human assets near the Sol system. Show dominance. Break morale. They never made it past the rings. At first, their scanners saw nothing unusual. Saturn looked dead. Titan was silent. Enceladus was quiet. The rings circled calmly, just dust and stone and frozen gas. The planet itself pulsed with calm golden light. Commander Trill of the Zarn fleet stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Shatterwing, amused. "We expected monsters," he said to his crew. "We find a graveyard." He was wrong. A soft tremor shook the void. Barely detectable. Then another, and another. The rings of Saturn rippled. Not physically, electromagnetically. A pulse of raw gravity moved across the ring system like a tide. Dozens of the Zarn ships had to stabilize to stay in formation. The Admiral ordered a scan. It's no results. Then something massive rose from within. Saturn's northern atmosphere. It wasn't a ship, it was a Titan. Not the moon, the machine, a mech. A war form, over 30 meters. Tall, shaped like a humanoid giant wrapped in dark armor and glowing red channels. It hovered above the clouds like a god rising from sleep. Its face was smooth. No eyes, no mouth. It's just a vertical red line burning across where a visor should be. And then 2 more rose behind it. One from Enceladus, another from Rhea, the sky over. Saturn filled with machines that had not moved in 200 years. Inside the first Titan, a heartbeat pulsed. Not mechanical human. Captain Ilya Rohn opened her eyes. Her body was sealed in a cradle of command gel. Her brain connected to a web of combat AI systems. She had been asleep for so long she barely remembered the last war. Only fragments. Screams, fire. The voice of her commander saying, "When they come back, make them pay." Her orders came through the neural link. No words. Just instinct. Engage, destroy, protect. The first Zarn ship fired. A rail cannon shot across the sky. Crackling with plasma, the Titan caught it midair. Its hand moved like wind, and the projectile disintegrated against its palm. It responded with a graviton spear. The energy rippled space itself. The Zarn cruiser broke in half. The other Titans launched forward, skating through space like hunters on ice. Each movement bent. Gravity, each strike shattered shields. The Zarn fleet panicked. They had fought other species, the Brox, the Velok, even the Sarathan dread clusters. But nothing moved like the Titans. These were not ships. These were weapons built for vengeance. Trill tried to retreat. His dreadnought turned. Engines flared, but the rings of Saturn moved. No, not the rings. From the dust and ice. More shapes emerged. Hidden ships, dozens of human stealth corvettes. Hidden among the planetary debris, they powered on silently. The Zarn found themselves surrounded. A perfect kill-dash box. From the moon Dione, a pulse cannon fired. One shot. Blue-white light. It tore through space like a blade. For Zarn ships died instantly. Still no transmissions. Still no communication. Humanity wasn't asking for surrender. They weren't giving a warning. They were delivering judgment. The Zarn fleet split. Half tried to flee toward. Jupiter the other. Half turned to fight, both failed. The Titans moved faster than physics should allow. They folded space in arcs, appearing in front of ships before they could fire. Each strike was surgical, a wasted motion. No mercy. Inside the mech, Captain Roan saw the enemy's final data logs. She watched their faces as the panic hit them. She listened to their orders, their screams, their curses. She said nothing. She had waited too long for this. The last dreadnought tried to ram her Titan. It charged at full speed. Plasma vents flaring, she stood still, then punched. Just once, the dreadnought folded in half, not exploded. Folded like paper collapsing into itself. The battle lasted 11 minutes. At the end, the sky over Saturn was quiet again. Dust floated. Debris scattered. One Titan stood alone above the planet, scanning for more threats. There were none. The human fleet did not celebrate. They just turned and waited. On the other side of the solar system, the Ghost Fleet watched. The message was spreading. Earth's silence was no longer peace. It was the sound of retribution loading, and across the galaxy. Species that once cheered humanity's fall now locked their doors. They had all crossed the line. Now, they would all face the consequences. The surface of Pluto had been silent for over 2 centuries. Cold winds swept across its icy crust. The dwarf planet had no cities, no lights, no signs of life. Not even the Zarn bothered to scan it. But buried nearly 100 kilometers beneath, the ice, something was waking up. It began with a whisper, not a sound, a pulse. A single quantum vibration radiated through subspace, bouncing between Pluto's ancient core and a sealed archive built by humans during their final days. The vibration triggered something deep within the station's memory core. A name lit up on a screen that hadn't flickered in 200 years. Svrano. Cord. And just below that, access level, final directive. Inside the archive, machines stirred.
Atch.
Pressure. Seals hissed. A massive vault door unlatched, revealing rows of frozen servers and blackstone panels. Lights blinked on soft red, then steady white dot. At the center of the room sat an orb the size of a person's skull, floating above a pedestal of silver alloy. Load. The orb glowed faintly blue, rotating slowly. Its name was never written down, only spoken once by its creator, the Eye of Delay, Earth's last defense. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a ship. It was time weaponized. The Eye had been tested once, for exactly 0.4 seconds. That test destroyed an entire moon.
Ow.
No explosion. No energy wave. The moon simply aged 600,000 years in half a second, then collapsed into dust. The humans had locked the Eye away, hidden it under ice and shadow, behind a fortress of encrypted silence. They swore it would never be used again, but the countdown had reached a threshold. 5,000. 4,999. It was time. Across the Sol system, the Ghost Fleet received the activation ping. So did the Titans above Saturn. So did Omen and even Vigil. Buried under Earth's crust, all systems reported green dot CHRONO core was online. The protocol was simple. Unfold time. Punish the intruders. End the memory at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Other Zarn fleet arrived, smaller, sent to scan the outer system, looking for resource caches and weapon blueprints. They thought the battle was still centered on Mars and Saturn. They didn't. No, they had just walked into the most dangerous part of human space. A small, dark satellite floated nearby, completely inert. They didn't notice it until their time sensors started acting strange. One officer panicked. "Sir, our clocks are dissonant." Another said, "The warp drives aren't responding." Then the stars began to flicker. From inside their ships, the stars looked like candles, blinking fast, then slow, and fast again. The stars weren't changing. Time was. The first ship's hull cracked open. Not from pressure or weapons fire, from rust. In seconds, its interior turned brown and brittle. Steel became powder. Glass shattered without force. Crew members tried to run, but their bodies froze mid-motion. It's like statues caught in a different stream of time. One officer aged 300 years in 30 seconds. The Zarn dreadnought tried to activate a warp jump, but time was warped. They arrived at their destination minus 19,000 years into the future, and there was nothing there. Just black, empty space. Stars dead. Worlds gone. The ship vanished a moment later, swallowed by entropy. The remaining fuse sent one last signal. It was scattered, broken, warped, but one word remained clear. Time. Is their weapon? Back at the council, panic turned to chaos. "We have to stop them," screamed one ambassador. "They're killing time itself," said another. "No," Admiral Vreel said quietly. "They're using what we let them build, what we forgot they had." Every council race had once mocked Earth's obsession with theory, through gravity, time, black holes, antimatter. They laughed when humanity poured resources into silent planets and empty ice worlds. Now those same worlds were fighting back one. Counselor tried to contact Earth directly, sending a message into the human exclusion zone. They received no reply. Instead, they got a file. It was a video, ancient, degraded, cracked with static. A human man stood on a podium, surrounded by soldiers in old uniforms. His voice was calm, cold. "If you are watching this, you have violated the line. That means you crossed into the space we swore to protect. Know this. We are not coming back to make peace. We are not returning to talk. We are returning to remind you what silence truly means." Behind him, a banner flew, the Terran Defense Corps symbol, scarred with claw marks, scorched by fire. The video ended. Across the Kuiper Belt, the Chronocore powered down, its work complete. 59 enemy ships lost. No trace, no war, just time. And deep inside the archive, the Eye of Delay whispered again, not to the galaxy, not to the Xer. To Earth phase complete, judgment continues. The countdown rolled on. 4,444. 4,443. The past was over. The future no longer belonged to the Council, and the present belonged to humanity. Far beyond the moons of Neptune, in a dead zone of space, where no star's light could reach, a black vessel drifted in silence. No lights, no emissions, no signs of life. It had no crew. It needed none. It was called Rathwan, and it had not moved in 200 years, until now. The hull shimmered as if space itself bent around it. Dust parted in its path. Dead satellites shivered and fell from orbit as the vessel passed. Inside the ship, a single stasis chamber opened. Steam hissed. Lights flickered red, and then a breath. A man stepped out, tall, worn, scarred. His body was covered in cybernetic implants. His eyes glowed faintly with blue nanolight. Had been asleep for 2 centuries? Yet he woke as if no time had passed. Commander Rhys Hale, the last Terran supercommander, the final field general of the Earth Defense Network. He walked barefoot through the silent corridors of Rathwan, each step triggering a system. Screens lit up. Shields powered on. Cannons began to warm. AI cores flickered to life, whispering data through the air in fragments. Zarn fleet presence. Verified Saturn Titan deployment. Complete Chronocore protocol. Executed countdown remaining. 3,332. Rhys placed his hand on the command pillar. The ship knew him. It obeyed. He had not aged. He could not. His body was engineered to survive the final war, but it had never come, because the galaxy had laughed at the Terran warning, because they thought Earth's silence meant surrender. Rhys stared into the tactical screen. He saw the Council fleets massing. Dozens of worlds preparing to unite, finally seeing the danger, finally trying to stop it. Too late. Rathwan opened a channel not to broadcast, to listen. It picked up hundreds of overlapping signals, ships screaming, fleets collapsing, the Council begging the Zarn to retreat. But the Zarn would not. They didn't believe in retreat. Not until Rhys showed them what wrath meant. He raised his hand and spoke a single command. Engage. From its hull, Wrath 1 unfolded. What looked like wings spread wide. Not metallic, but dimensional. They shimmered with gravity and heat, bending light, drawing in radiation. The ship didn't fire a weapon. It became one. It tore through subspace in a micro-jump, arriving at the Zarn rally point above the rogue planet Kirill 6. Dozens of Zarn ships blinked in surprise. Some turned, some opened. Comes. Reese said nothing. He sent one image, a symbol, the Terran. Mark, a broken star ringed by thorns. Then Wrath 1 moved, faster than light, faster than cause. It cut through 3 cruisers before their computers realized it had appeared. One ship tried to flee, but was caught in a gravity snare and ripped in half. Another tried to warp, but Wrath 1 inverted the local time bubble. The ship left. It arrived 1 minute before it departed, colliding with itself. Silence followed. Then, as if space itself was terrified, the Zarn fleet pulled back. Too late, Wrath 1 fired its primary weapon, a narrow lance of anti-space. A tear in existence. No explosion, no fire, just absence. 2 dreadnoughts vanished forever. Not even wreckage remained. Reese stood still, breathing calmly. His heart beat once every 10 seconds. His brain was synced with a core of quantum AI that could simulate every enemy maneuver 10 seconds into the future. They couldn't hit him. They couldn't see him clearly. They couldn't understand him, because he wasn't human anymore. He was what humans became when the galaxy forgot their warnings. Wrath 1 didn't pursue the rest of the fleet. It didn't have to. The message was already spreading. Ships turned back. Council generals began recalling their forces. But not because they feared Reese, because the countdown had changed again. It was no longer steady. It was accelerating. 3,100, 3,000, 2,800. Every 10 seconds, it dropped by 20. The end was coming. And Wrath 1 wasn't the final weapon. It was the herald. Reese looked toward Earth. He opened one last private channel to an ancient orbital AI buried under Earth's shadow layer. "Signal the black code," he said. The reply came instantly, confirmed. "Initiating protocol. Stormfront." Across the system, deep under the crust of Earth, thousands of sealed vaults cracked open. From Venus to Io to the shattered shell of Luna, Earth's final plan awakened. The Terrans had not built a fleet to win. They had built it to end. And the next phase was no longer about punishment. It was eradication, because this was no longer a war. This was a reckoning. The sky above Earth shimmered, not from light or fire or storm, but from pressure. Invisible, immense, and growing stronger by the second. In orbit, the shattered remains of old Terran defense stations reformed. Anak clouds long dormant. Flowed like ink through vacuum, knitting broken armor plates, restoring weapons. Repairing systems humanity had buried in dust. From deep beneath the Himalayas, a pulse rose. From the molten depths of the Mariana Trench, another answered. From old sealed bunkers beneath the Amazon, a voice long silenced began to sing in a low hum. Protocol Stormfront. Phase 2, Final Judgment. The Black Code had been activated, across the galaxy. Every council world felt it. Shields fluctuated, power grids flickered, weapons failed, entire nav systems crashed, and in the silence left behind, single sound echoed. Across all channels, not a scream, not a voice, a heartbeat, steady, slow, human, the countdown. Once falling in ones and tens, now plunged in hundreds. 1,940, 1,200, 800, 500, 400. On the moon, buried beneath the sea of tranquility, Vigil opened its final seal. It had been silent for centuries. Now it spoke to every system. Every world, every species that had turned its eyes towards soul and thought. It belongs to no one now. Its voice was not loud. It was final. You had peace, chose violation. You cheered our silence. Now, you witnessed consequence. On Earth's crust, the land began to open. Not with explosions, with order. Massive doors hidden beneath continents, peeled back in perfect sequence. 10,000 black towers rose into the skies, linked by light bridges, hovering arcs, and energy webs. Each was a relay, a stabilizer, a memory. Each had a name, names carved by the last generation of humans. Names like honor, firewatch, regret, and truth. But at the center of them all, towering above the rest, rose the spine, a singular structure pulsing with gold light, visible from space. At its base stood a figure, alone, waiting. Commander Reese. Hale, no longer just a war leader, now a witness. He looked up as the sky burned red with atmosphere distortion from all corners of the galaxy. Council fleets arrived, billions of credits worth of ships, tech, and soldiers brought together. By fear, they did not come to negotiate. They came to stop what they could no longer understand. The Ghost Fleet engaged first. Titan units rose again. Roth-1 led the charge, but Earth itself remained still. And then, the countdown ended: :0. No explosion came, no shockwave, no fire. Instead, Earth broadest, every planet, every mind across the stars, all heard the same voice, calm, human, not angry, not cruel, just tired. We are not vengeful. We are not gods. We are simply what you made us become. We gave you silence. You answered with greed. Now we give you memory. All at once, the truth, poured into the galaxy. Not data, not files, memory. Every sentient being received flashes, moments. From humanity's last days, the bombings of Titan, the betrayal on Europa, the laughter from the council chambers as Earth's final message was ignored, children crying under broken skies, soldiers locking vault doors behind them, the promise, we will return, or the memory of us will. The galaxy remembered what it had chosen to forget. Billions fell silent. Fleets stopped firing. Some cried, some knelt, some screamed. And in that silence, Earth spoke one last time. This is the line. Beyond this point, no galaxy will be allowed to forget. Above Earth, the Ghost Fleet stopped its assault. The enemy ships began to vanish, not destroyed, erased. Not from space, it's from time. Their histories rewritten. Their worlds now remembered as lost colonies, accidents, forgotten names. The species themselves remained. But they no longer remembered the war. Only that Earth was sacred. Only that its silence had meaning, Commander. Reese Hale stood beneath the tower and closed his eyes. The war was over. Not. It ended. The fleets returned to their vaults. The Titans went to rest. Wrath-1 folded space and disappeared once more into deep void Darth. Turned off its light, but its memory could never again be buried, and across the stars, etched into satellites, moons, and stations, a final phrase remained in a language all could read. This space is human, forever. The silence had spoken. The galaxy would never forget.